It's our favorite day of the week, Wednesday, which means we're back in the pavilion with another Pink Slip to Power Move story. If this is your first time here, welcome to Pink Slip Pavilion. Make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button so you never miss a layoff story. This week we have Kate Bramer's story from isolated to connected.
This pink slips the start, not the end.
Welcome to the Pink Slip Pavilion, Kate. We're excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So we have to start with the most important question, which is have you ever gotten a pink slip?
I have, and it was devastating. It was, you know, um, it really took me by surprise. I was working for an arts magazine, national arts magazine. I managed a team. We had big, lofty goals of growing and scaling and, essentially matching our competitor, which um, is a hard thing to do. And so there was a lot of excitement around that, a lot of goal setting. And unfortunately, this particular magazine is primarily print. And I think we know that in 2026, print is more difficult to sustain. So although we had a digital platform as well, we were primarily print, and that wasn't enough to keep me and my role around. So, so I was initially, I would say, I wasn't in shock. My immediate reaction was, okay, I've picked myself up before. I'll be fine. I got this. And within about a week or two, I realized, oh, I don't have this. This
Mm.
market is crazy. We are operating in a job market that is unlike any other before, with AI, with the lack of there's a lot of lack of trust on both sides between candidates and employers. And I realized, oh, I don't have this. This is going to be harder than I expected. And so I became pretty shut down and depressed and scared. Um, from Yeah, I mean it was a rough time. That was a rough time for sure. Yeah. So I've been laid off. It was really difficult, and there was, eventually a shift.
Which is, we're going to get into that, but let's dive into kind of where you were. So set the stage. You set the stage a little bit of where you were in life, but just kind of where you were in your career. I think it's helpful for people to understand the season that you were in and kind of what your expectations were of where life was going before this happened.
Sure. Yeah, I would say I was in mid-career. I had I guess about 7, 8 years in professionally. Worked in architecture and design. So while that's corporate, it's a different type of corporate. It's a very specific field. So I'd previously worked in that, but my background is in arts administration. So I manage artists, I manage designers, I do operations and marketing and HR and account. I mean, I manage the business of artists. And so um, I learned during my unemployment that I'm what's called a generalist. And while I mean, it could be a good or a bad thing. At first, I took it as a bad thing. It felt like a bad thing because as a generalist, well, first of all, it's a good thing because I can do anything. I know HR, I know marketing, I know how to operate a business, I know accounting. I can literally operate an entire all aspects of a business, and I'm not a specialist. So I don't lead with I am a marketer. I am right. So that generalist thing sort of, I had to wrap my head around that and what that means. And I had to learn how to sell that essentially. I had to learn how that's actually quite a benefit to any employer in any company that wants to hire me. So that took me a bit to understand and to talking to different people and learning what that term meant.
I think applying to jobs, that's tough too, because you have to tailor yourself to the job, especially with AI and everything going on and using ATS systems to screen. So if you're a generalist, you can apply to so many different jobs, but that also means you have to tailor your resume and your cover letter so many different times. And often our resumes don't necessarily speak to everything that we've done. It's just titles and how that person associates. So it's just this slippery slope when it comes to generalists because I think every business wants a generalist in some ways, but then they will sometimes not hire the generalist because they're like, well, do you do this function or do you do more of these functions? And so this, I completely understand where you're coming from with just that challenge. And because of recruiting myself, like I understand the conversations that go on behind the scenes. But let's talk about your mindset. So you mentioned a little bit of kind of where you were mentally, but let's talk about the progression and how long that took for you to kind of go from one space to another. What did that look like?
Sure. So I was laid off in kind of what was the last day of September. So we're going into kind of, excuse me, the last quarter of the year, getting into holidays. And a lot of people think about holidays, oh, I shouldn't even bother. Nobody's around, nobody's looking. Actually, it's a great time to apply. But I wasn't there yet because I was really early in my journey of being devastated, feeling scared, being kind of depressed, feeling like, what am I going to do? So I sort of decided to take a break that holiday and just like, okay, you're gonna be all right. Just give it a break, give it a rest, take some time off. It's especially, for many people have worked their whole lives and that is your livelihood. And so then not working, you got to take a breath and take a break. And so I think, I think the key and the goal and the hope is to find that place in the interim, in that limbo, in that unknown, to trust and to like, okay, I've got all this time. What am I going to do with it? So I was a little isolated. I was depressed. And then I kind of slowly started to, I was getting lots of rest. I was incredibly well rested, very well hydrated. And then I'm like, okay, it's time to pick yourself up. I'm a big kind of like physical activity person. So I gave myself a routine and I got myself a really good workout routine. That was what I stuck to. Um, I had, as my therapist once a week. What would I do without her? Like I plugged these hours into my day and my week that made me feel like there was a purpose. And then, of course, the job searching, especially as a generalist, is a full-time job because I'm catering every single resume, every cover letter, every communication to, oh, I've done marketing here. I've done HR here. So as I started to do that, started to gain confidence. The thing that brought me the most confidence and my biggest lesson of it all was other people and was talking to other people and was learning from other people. And um, I actually, before this experience, did not consider myself a networker. The idea of networking made me just want to roll my eyes. And I kind of pictured old school networking where it's like people at a booth at a table, like a career fair. Well, that's not networking at all. And that is certainly not networking in 2026. Networking in 2026 is, I think it's a lot more authentic. I think if you can be openly authentic about your reality, you find other openly authentic people. Um, One of the first jobs I got an invitation to apply to, I met the woman in a dog park. And we had known each other maybe 8 years ago, very casually, very briefly, mutual friends. We see each other at a dog park, and she asked how I was after 8 years. And I said, and I decided to be honest. I didn't need to tell her, well, I'm actually having a hard time. I'm unemployed, but I did. Well, she's a recruiter for a startup that I was qualified and interested in, and I went through an entire, process interviewing with them that didn't work out, and it's for the best. But that's just an example of once I started to start talking about it and being really honest about how I'm doing, I'm not okay. I'm struggling. I'm unemployed. I'm sending out, hundreds of resumes and and I'm having a hard time. Once I started talking about it and feeling comfortable with that is when doors started to open.
It's that vulnerability piece. And also I think breaking through the shame. Because when you're not talking about something that you're struggling with, it's often shame that's putting us in that corner. But I love that you broke through that and you started to ask people for help. I think that's something that we all struggle with, and in some level is asking for help when we need it. But also with networking, I mean, we met networking and
Mhm.
you just never know what doors can open. And I think with networking, I love that you called out that it is not a job fair. But I also want to call out that every function looks different. So with networking, you have to find the spaces that really fit you. And so you might
Mhm.
go to an event and go, yeah, this isn't for me. And it's completely fine to leave. You are not
Mhm.
stuck in that room. You do not have to force it. But getting in those rooms is a difference between sitting at home and, like you said, feeling isolated and actually starting to build connection with people who may know someone who knows someone, or even just say, you know what, you're going to be fine. And that might be what you need for the day.
Hmm. Hmm. And sometimes it is just, what do I need today? Right? What do I need today? I had people kind of advise to me, some days you just need to rest and go on a walk, right? Because yesterday you sent out 3 applications. So I think it really taught me that period of limbo and in between, and I don't know what's going to happen next and where am I going to land. That period taught me so much about how to trust myself and even on a really basic level, how to get in touch with my primal instincts. Am I thirsty? Am I hungry? Do I need some natural, fresh air? Like it really sort of, I think that we can get really lost in that when we're hustling and working and over scheduling. And in that hustle culture, we forget, wait, if I'm not meeting my own needs on just a basic everyday level, I can't be the best, fullest version of myself. So I'm hoping that this stays with me for the rest of my life and that I was really able to get in tune with that.
I love
Um,
that call out. I
yeah.
think it's so important because we often disregard our needs to chase the success, the money, the career. And I've heard this over and over from people that have gone through layoffs, but I've also experienced it myself of actually getting the chance to check in and having the time to go, what do I need today? And
Mhm.
especially I think as women, when we go into different seasons of life and we take on more and more and more, often we lose ourselves more and more and more, and we disregard our own needs more and more and more. So I love that you called that out because I know that somebody is gonna connect with that.
Mhm. Yeah, I think another piece that feels important to me that I learned in the networking is people want to help. N- People want to help. I started to become comfortable reaching out to strangers or do you know anyone? I mean, I asked my I asked my dentist if he knew anyone. I started talking to every person that I came across that it was maybe in my life a little more regularly. And my dentist knew a very important person in the realm of my field. So you just never know. And I think it's so much about just being open. It's not even about who you know. It's about talking to the people who are already in your life because you don't know who they know. So I got over that hump of emailing people I'd never, maybe I'd get an email introduction. I got an email introduction from the dentist who then, you know, oh, I want to introduce you. And this was a very high up person. He's the founder of a very important organization in our town, in our city. And that person immediately, not immediately, but when he had time, got coffee with me. And I was so nervous. He's high up, but it's like people want to help, even the busiest people, even people with booked and full schedules, they want to give a leg up just like they had. that is kind of part of, I think that that's part of the responsibility of being in that position. You need to pay it forward in any way that you can. So when people look to you as someone who has knowledge and connections and how did you get to where you are, people want to help. And that I think that is generally true.
I love that because sometimes we tell ourselves the narrative that I can't ask for help because why would this person or this person that doesn't know me want to help me? But if you never ask, the answer is always no. And if someone doesn't respond, at least you tried, but you might get that cup of coffee that changes everything. And
Everything.
that was worth the fear of overcoming, well, maybe this person won't help me, or maybe this person will be annoyed that I reached out and I'm a stranger. So let's talk
Mhm.
about blessings. I feel like that's a really good segue to what blessings have come out of this experience for you. I know you've touched on some of them and just kind of what we've talked about, but what are some of those blessings that you wouldn't have had this not happened?
So once I really started to get my footing and I was like, okay, listen, I love people. I love meeting people. I have time to meet people now and really put myself out there and trust that I'm going to land in the right place. I have met, yourself included, some incredible people that I wouldn't have met otherwise had I had been in that previous place, at that previous job, in my sort of, the day to day of that previous life. So I have a whole new kind of roster of wonderful people that I, have met. I think the other blessing, and this goes kind of to connection, is so the certainly not the end of my story, but I can talk about where I am now. I'm gainfully employed again, and I am, thank you, thank you. It was quite a journey. I got my job through I was working with several recruiters. I learned about recruiters are there to advocate for me. They're there to learn my story. You were a recruiter, you understand that too. It's recruiters are on your side. And so I recommend for everyone, if it fits, to find a recruiter to help them, a career coach, a recruiter. It is so helpful to be able to talk about what you're going through and what you're looking for, to talk to another person out loud who has experience in thinking about career growth. So I worked with one recruiter and we got to know each other quite well. We went through, she was always recommending me for roles, and I would make it, this happened twice. I'd make it me and the last candidate, me and another candidate, and either being overqualified or didn't have the skill, they went with the other candidate. So that happened two times. The second time it happened, she said, well, that they're going to go in another direction, but I do have another opportunity for you. It's with so I work in architecture design. This is a landscape design firm. She said it's with a landscape design firm. It's a little below the salary that you were looking for. Are you interested? I said yes, especially because for me personally, I don't chase money. I chase meaning. I need meaning and purpose in my work. That's just me, right? I wish I chased money more. You know, but I don't. I chase meaning is everything to me. So I need to feel meaning in my work. She said, I've got a landscape architecture firm. They need a kind of a more of an operations generalist role. Are you interested? Absolutely. I show up, it's immediately comfortable. It's a comfortable environment because it's the type of, I've worked in, design studios before. It's exactly what I'm used to. It's very comfortable. I walk into the interview, it's going really well. I'm being vulnerable, I'm making them laugh, I'm being confident, I'm familiar with the field. And the owner, the principal of the firm, is sort of he kind of mentions his wife, and then he gets anyway, and I thought that was strange, and I couldn't figure it out. After the interview, we walk out together, and he says, "Let me show you around the studio." I could tell it went so well. I could tell like this is where I belong. And he says, "By the way, my wife is your recruiter." So my recruiter sent me to go work for her husband. So we had formed such a relationship that she knew that I was a great candidate and trusted me to go work with her husband, which is I mean, that's just it's a funny small world, nice sort of bow on the end of the story. And it's not always going to be that that connected and that close and that coincidental, but I just think any connection with people is good because many people are good. I go back to this whole AI thing and and how we're lacking trust in this communication between employer and employee and can I trust you? Is this fake? Are you a scam? All of that is real. I'm not saying it's not, but we're also still lots of real people out there that just want to connect. And so for me, that was a really important thing to remember. I'm not a robot. I don't want to work for robots. Some people that might be their field. I don't want to, I don't want to take that away, but I want to work with real people. And so I had a really nice sort of very immediate close connection. So now I'll see my recruiter at the Christmas party. Uh, so it's a really sweet ending. I love the way that it ended. So I feel very blessed for my ability to be open and meet people that way.
I love how it ended too, because I actually met you when you were about to, you thought, get one of those jobs and it didn't come through. And so hearing this and having the opportunity to sit down with you in the pavilion now and hear this story and the serendipity of it, and you walking in and going, I know I belong here.
Mhm.
That makes me incredibly happy. And it also, I think, gives people a lot of hope that if they're getting to that final stage and they're not getting the offer and they're just feeling that disappointment and all the time and energy and excitement they've invested not coming through, there is another opportunity. You got to ride the wave, and it's hard, but like you said, take care of yourself, take inventory. There's another blessing coming if you're willing to just like get through the discomfort of a layoff. So, with that in mind, if you could go back and you could talk to Kate in late September, I think you said late September when the layoff happened, what would you want her to know now with the wisdom that you have?
I would want her to try and relax and trust and be I mean I'm willing to trust other people. I think I would want her to be open to being vulnerable earlier on and letting go of the shame. The shame piece is huge. To me, I really held on to that for a minute. Now, I wouldn't go back and do it any differently. I love the way it all sort of unfolded. Um, but I would just tell her to take the best care of yourself that you ever have and to be open with people and let other people help guide you as you're taking action and guiding yourself.
Now, if somebody is walking through this journey right now, or maybe they walked through it in the past and they're still holding on to some of the shame or the emotional turmoil that comes with these experiences, or if they're fearful that a layoff may be coming because we're living in a very unstable world, what would you want them to know?
Um, if they are fearful of a layoff coming or if they've recently been laid off, I want them to start reaching out to people that they know. I want them to think about what would look better than what I have now? Maybe they're working and they're worried about a layoff coming. What would look better? What would I rather be doing? We can always be reinventing ourselves, even when everything's okay, even when the paycheck is coming in, the income is good. We can always be improving? That's why we're here. I feel like personally, that is why we're alive. I'm always on kind of a self-improvement mission. And it's also okay to just kind of to be who you are, but we all have so many skills and so much to offer. And so I would tell anyone today to start thinking about that. What are your skills? What are you up? Fine tune honestly, how you're branding yourself. It's part of what we have to do today. But what does that look like? What do you like about yourself? What would you like to happen next? I think once we stop operating out of fear, we can operate in how can I make my life better? What does that look like? So it's you don't have to wait for the layoff to do that. You can do that ahead of time and be prepared and start taking your own action for your future.
So powerful. Thank you so much for joining me and telling your story and being willing to be vulnerable, giving advice. I know somebody will be impacted by this conversation. I'm just grateful that you joined me.
Thank you.
So, who's ready to get connecting? If you took one thing from this conversation, I hope that it's the power of connecting with other human beings and asking for support and help when you need it. If you want to connect with Kate, her contact information will be in the description of the show. And of course, we'll be back next Wednesday with another story because we're determined to prove to you that your pink slip is secretly a power move in disguise. Make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button so you never miss out. And I'll see you next week here in the pavilion.
This pink slips